Hey boys and girls, welcome back. So today we're going to be looking again at how to make different arrays. So let's go over our vocab that we learned yesterday. Can you remember what a row is? That's right, it's a line of things that are going across. Remember, they have to go from side to side, not up and down, side to side. The word altogether, the total number of things and we usually use plus, we usually add. So when we say altogether, I want to know how many in all. What is the total? What are all of the things I'm looking at? And then the last word we're looking at is array, which is a group of rows. So if we just have one, we call it a row. And if we have more than one, we call it an array. And to find the total, we can use plus, or we can use skip counting. Now again today, my little friend Chase has joined us, so see if you can watch out for him. He might be popping up sometime in this video. Are we ready? Let's go. So let's have a look here. We have 2 plus 2 plus 2. We have 2 plus 2. And we have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. What I want you to do is I want you, for each of these number sentences, to draw an array. So for the first one, 2 plus 2 plus 2, you're going to draw one row of 2, then another row of 2, and then another row of 2. You can choose what it is. Maybe you want to do circles, maybe you want to do hearts, or stars, or trees, or flowers, or buttons, or anything you want. Anything you want. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that now. You can pause the video and press play when you are finished. Okay, here is an example of some arrays. 2 plus 2. We could have a row of 2 teddy bears and then a row of 2 teddy bears. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. 2 donuts, 2 donuts, 2 donuts, and 2 donuts. And then 2 plus 2 plus 2. We have 2 cubes, 2 cubes, and 2 cubes. Let me use my marker here just to show you. So there's a row of 2 and another row of 2. So we have 2 plus 2. Here we have one row of 2, another row of 2, another row of 2, and another row of 2. We have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. It's a little bit messy there, sorry. And our last one, we have one row of 2, 2 rows of 2, and 3 rows of 2. 2 plus 2 plus 2. Okay, now these are just examples to help you. If you want to do something different that's not teddy bears or donuts or cubes, you go and do your own. Are we ready to move on? Have you seen my little friend? Let's go. Okay, so on your paper, I'd like you to write number 1 for question 1. And we're just going to be looking at what we did yesterday, because it was a little bit tricky because we haven't done it before. So we're going to look at that again in case anyone is still a little bit confused. So our first question here, there are in each row. Look at one row and count how many presents there are. I want you to write the answer then on the line. I've done that very messy. Let me do that again. Next, we need to count how many rows there are. So here is one row. Here's a next row, third row, and the fourth row. So how many rows are there? I'm helping you with this one a bit. Count how many rows there are and write it on the line. Nice full sentence. Remember your full stop. Nice neat handwriting. Okay, next we need to write our number sentence. So how many are in the first row? We need to write it on the first line. How many are in the second row? We need to write it on the second line. How many are in the third row? We need to write it on the third line. How many are in the fourth row? We need to write it on the fourth line. Then we can choose. We can add all of these numbers, or we can, skip count. Use our skip counting to count these numbers. Okay, and lastly, we're going to write our sentence. There are all together. Can you remember what all together means? We need to find out how many there are in the whole thing and write it on the line. You can pause your video now while you complete this question. Okay, question 2. This time we have some raspberries. They look very, very delicious. What do you think? I'd love some raspberries. Okay, so first we're going to have a look at this part here. There are in each row. So let's have a look at one row and let's count how many raspberries there are. Count the raspberries and write it on the line. Nice and neat on your paper for question 2. Next, we need to count how many rows there are. So here's the first row. How many rows are there all together? Write the number here on the line. Nice and neat. How many rows? Next, we need to count how many there are all together. So how many in the first row? Count how many are here and write the number on the first line. Then we count how many are in the second row and we write it on the second line. And then we count how many are in the third row and we write it on the third line. When you're finished, you can either add these 3 numbers or you can use your skip counting. You need to count how many there are in one row and then skip count by that number. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to be skip counting by 5. Write the answer on your paper. When you're finished, have a look down here at the last sentence. There are all together. How many all together? This number here, you can write here in a nice, neat sentence. Tell me how many there are all together. Okay, question 3. This time we have some pencils. So, first, we need to see how many are in one row. Count how many. Oh my goodness, that's a bit messy. I'll erase that. Count how many are in the first row and write it here for your sentence, the first sentence. Next, count how many rows there are and write it here for the second sentence. Next, I want you to count how many are in the first row and write it on the first line. How many are in the second row and write it on the second line. How many are in the third row and write it on the third line. And how many are in the fourth row and write it on the fourth line. Then you're either going to add all of these numbers or use your skip counting to find the answer and write it on the last line. Finally, you're going to write the last sentence. There are all together. How many pencils all together? Okay, question 4. Here is an array. We have lots and lots of yellow squares. But when they made this array, somebody made a mistake. Can you tell me what the mistake is? So I want you to look at the first row. Is there a mistake in the first row? I want you to look at the second row. Is there a mistake in the second row? Have a look at the third row. Is there a mistake in the third row? And then have a look on the fourth row and tell me if there's a mistake in the fourth row. When you have found the mistake, I want you on your paper to tell me what is the mistake and what happened. Why is there a mistake? What's the problem? Okay, question 5. Here's our challenge question. I want you to build or to draw an array that matches the description. So you can go look in your house. Maybe you could use some pieces of pasta. Maybe you could use some pencils. Maybe you could use some toys or cubes or counters or dice, anything that you have. You can use to make this array, but you have to follow these rules. There are 5 rows and there are 2 on each row. So you need to make 5 rows and each row must have 2 things in it. Now, if you can't find things around your house, then you can just draw it on your paper. You can draw an array, choose what you want to do, stars or smiley faces or hearts or trees or clouds or anything. And you can draw an array, 5 rows and 2 things on each row. Do you think you'll be able to do it? I know you all will. I think it's going to be very, very fun. At the end of your paper as well, tell me how many times you saw my little friend Chase. Hope you've had fun and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye everyone!